We are really excited to talk to Kevin Harlan. He'll be on the call Monday night for Commanders Bengals. An absolute legend calling games. Kevin, what's up, man? Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks for having me on the show. Good to be on with you guys. Looking forward to seeing the Commanders for the first time this year.
Yeah, I'm sure you've watched and talked to the coaches and everything. What have you made of Jaden Daniels so far?
Well, we've not talked to the coaches, and I have not seen him in person. I've just watched a little bit of tape. I've got another game coming up this weekend on CBS on Sunday, so I'm getting ready for these two games kind of at the same time. But no, what I know is what everybody knows. This kid is an incredibly talented player. He was that way before he ended up at LSU. He has, as a rookie starting in this league is now not a rarity. I think that he is equipped to do it. He has played on gigantic stages before. Doesn't seem to be phased. I've always liked the way he plays, and he's only going to get better. I mean, I think what's not to like? He represents a turning of the page at that position. They drafted him for a reason. These quarterbacks probably come in more prepared to start in the NFL than ever before, and he would be right at the top of the list. So I can't wait to watch him play.
Kevin, you say you got that game coming, got another game. Do you ever get all these names and stuff running through your head and get confused?
Oh, I'm confused by my own name. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to do a few games like, whoa, you try to do one thing, you start thinking about it, you get all these names running through your head. It's tough. But you make it seem so easy.
If you do something every day, and that's kind of what I've learned over these years, you do a little bit every day. It's like studying for a test in high school or college, right? You study a little bit every day, and the repetition sets in, and more or less you're going to do fairly well. It's when you try to cram at the end where that sometimes does not work and pay off for most people. Mm-hmm. And so a little bit every day, I think, aids to that end result. I'm going to be in Seattle on Sunday and then get halfway across the country and spend the night and then finish the trip on Monday morning into Cincinnati, which will be a tough game for the Commanders for sure. That's last week the Bengals probably should have beaten the Chiefs. They did not, but looks like they've kind of regained their traction. And Cincinnati does not play that well in the month of September. Joe Burrow's record in September is not that good. So if you're ever going to play him, this is the time to play him in the month of September. And I know from a Washington standpoint, Commanders are hoping that they can take advantage of that, which has seemed to kind of follow Burrow through the first couple years of his career, not playing well necessarily to begin seasons.
We're talking with Kevin Harlan here, the voice of Monday Night Football on Westwood One. And I got to tell you, Kevin, because of the work I do here in D.C., a lot of times I'm in the car for Monday Night Football, like at least the first half. The Westwood broadcast is so good. Yes, I really enjoy it. I am sure you've called a bunch of Bengals games. Obviously, they've got kind of that Jamar Chase situation looming there. Do you still consider the Bengals as maybe the top rival to the Chiefs, even though they started 0-2?
Yeah, I think Houston is emerging in that. I'm anxious to see what Harbaugh does with the Chargers. Buffalo is always going to be there. But the Bengals, probably because of Burrow and they have Chase, that's a pretty special team, clearly. And I think they're built, again, to battle the Chiefs. They did this past Sunday and barely lost. And, I think that we're so loaded with quarterbacks in the AFC. Whether it's Rodgers with the Jets, who's now there, certainly Allen, Tua when healthy with Miami, C.J. Stroud emerging with Houston, Herbert with the Chargers. I mean, you just go right on down the line, and you just see, one good team after another. But the problem is they're dealing with a quarterback who is generational in talent, Mahomes.
Yes.
So, the Chiefs have the confidence of a two-time defending champion. They've got the confidence of having the best quarterback in the game. They got maybe the best coach in the game in Andy Reid. The system is in place. But they're like a lot of teams. They've got their challenges, too. They just lost their best running back. They've got some injuries on defense they're dealing with. Every team's got some kind of crisis right now that they're dealing with. Just ask the Rams and 49ers and ask Miami, what crisis, what's your crisis? And they can tell you, well, in San Francisco, it's Christian McCaffrey, gone, injured. The Rams have wide receiver injuries. They've got offensive line injuries. Tua is out for the foreseeable future in Miami. He's the engine for that offense. So there's so much going around the league, but the Chiefs always seem to find answers. And until these other teams that are eventually going to go through some kind of crisis themselves this season, until they can handle it like the Chiefs do, the Chiefs are the team to beat for sure in the AFC.
Okay, you mentioned Andy Reid, and we look at it, and everyone immediately thinks about the quarterback, but Andy is not a young coach in this league. He's been around, former offensive lineman, but you watch him when he gets quarterbacks, he seems to correct them. Michael Vick, Pat plays unbelievable. They do all these different plays.
Donovan.
How important still is the head coach? I mean, the coaches that can, I guess, go out and take a guy and help elevate him to his full talent.
Well, you know as well as anyone that culture and coaching can be all the difference. And I'll just give you just a very small example, and it's a very small sample size. But Sam Darnold, who was the third overall pick by the Jets, 7 years ago, played there 3 years, then went to Carolina. Changes on the staff, changes at head coach, changes in offensive system and schemes, and he finally signs a one-year deal last year with San Francisco, which, like the Chiefs, is the picture of stability. Same coach, same culture, same offense, same quarterback requirements, attention to detail, a framework, all the things that great organizations show. And so Darnold goes out there last year, and they basically rebuild him. They not only reteach the position, but they teach preparation and situational things, and the benefit of all the things that position needs to have to be successful. And they're doing it with Brock Purdy, right? So he backs up Purdy. He learns how to prepare differently. He takes better care of his body. He learns philosophy in the offense of the Niners, and which is cutting edge. And he takes all that and he goes to Minnesota. He beats the Giants in the Meadowlands week 1. He beats the aforementioned 49ers last week in game 2. This week they take on Houston, a very tough AFC team. And he appears, we did that game last week against the Niners. He appears to be back to what he was out of SC with all that promise. Confident, great arm, sneaky athletic, great vision, calm presence, certainly prepared, attention to detail, all that stuff, right? And that's what a great organization can do. Before San Francisco, he had 4 different head coaches, 5 different offensive coordinators. Like, it's just turbulence. Everywhere you turn, turbulence. Nothing is the same. Who in the world can survive in a world like that? Nobody can. And BMitch, you know this. You need culture. You need stability. You need a process. You need something in place with a vision and principles that guide you every time you walk in that facility and every out. And he hadn't had it. And then he gets it with San Francisco. I think he's now found a whole new chapter. And he's only 27. And, because he was drafted when he was 20. So he's only 27 years old. He's in his 7th year, and he's at the height of his athletic powers. I think he's one of the more fascinating stories. Like I said, small sample size, could come crashing down, but the early results show that when you reprogram and reboot, maybe you can salvage one of these highly drafted quarterbacks. I'm hoping that's the case for Bryce Young at Carolina. Best thing he can do is leave there, go someplace like San Francisco, someplace with a sound offense, a great philosophy, stability in coaching, and they can rebuild him. And there's a lot there I still think to like with him. I still think the same maybe with Zach Wilson, who's a third-string quarterback with Denver, who was a high pick by the Jets. There are examples out there of guys that can be reclaimed, rebooted, and hopefully reborn in their regard.
I mean, to that point, through 2 games, sure looks like Sam Darnold fits that bill. We'll see if that if that holds for the whole season. What do you make of some of these kind of surprise 2-0 teams, Kevin? The Vikings, the Seahawks,
Saints.
the Saints.
That was surprising.
I mean, the Saints look outrageous so far.
Yeah, well, I think Clint Kubiak is the right answer for Carr down in New Orleans. They've always had pretty good parts, and they were disappointing last year. But they kind of a carryover from Sean Payton offensively. I think they got a coordinator who fits the skill set of what they've got: Kamara and Taysom Hill and clearly Carr. Like Clint Kubiak, it comes from that whole tree, right? That McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur tree. And I think he's just bringing some of those principles down there to that. I think up in Seattle, they're getting great quarterbacking. Geno Smith, another guy who had just turbulence everywhere he turned. Early pick by the Jets, jump to the Giants, then the Chargers, then back up and only a third string at that up in Seattle. And when you get a coach that believes in you, as Pete Carroll did, and you put a system in place, and you have an organization with stability. They're not changing coaches every couple of years. Mm-hmm. It can do wonders for a guy who still may have something in the tank, still may have that positive DNA at that position. And Geno Smith is a great example. Terrific last year, off to an incredible start this year. They're 2-0. Talked about the Vikings. They got Aaron Jones, who was let go by Green Bay because he couldn't stay healthy. He's making a difference at the running back position, kind of what Dalvin Cook did early on in his career with the Vikings. They've rebuilt their offensive line. Minnesota's rebuilt their defense. The great thing about the NFL is you can win 4 games one year and the very next win 11. And it's been done, and it will continue to be done because of some of the things we're talking about. The right coaching with the right quarterback and the right culture, and you surround these guys with the right kind of frame of reference, and great things can happen. And we're seeing that. We're not seeing with Carolina. There are a couple other teams that you just go, holy smokes, like what is going on? And that probably is not the right answer. But there are some that are making the right choices. And by the way, up in Seattle, they get, as you know, that terrific defensive coordinator with Baltimore. Historically, they put up numbers that a defense had never done in terms of ranking. They hire him in Seattle. He's now putting his fingerprints on that defense up there with the Seahawks. They hire the University of Washington offensive coordinator who worked with Michael Penix, who was drafted number 8 by Atlanta. They put him in charge of that innovative Washington Husky offense, put him into Seattle. He's watched the Seahawks from afar, but he's been right in their backyard in Seattle where the University of Washington is. So, you can start to connect the dots in this big game. But the bottom line probably becomes this with the teams that are good. Who handles crisis, like we were talking about before? Who handles crisis the best? Niners are in it without McCaffrey. Miami's in it without Tua. Rams are without offensive linemen and key offensive parts at the receiver. There are teams that are right now. Kansas City just lost their best running back. How do these teams handle, adversity? Can they get traction in light of losing an important part of their team? We'll find out as the season goes on.
Absolutely. And
Totally.
The crisis is so accurate because these NFL games turn into their own events. You know what I mean? Like week to week is like this massive buildup for this event. And then there's payoff or there isn't. I'm talking with Kevin Harlan here from TNT and Westwood One, and just a really, really impressive resume. Kevin, I'm curious, man. You don't do any social media, correct?
I do not. No, I do not do it. I have. I think to find things that I know that social media is not a very positive place. I've got 3 daughters. My wife and I have 3 daughters. If anything is on there that they think I need to see, they'll let me know. Otherwise, they kind of now they're all married moms, so they got a lot of other things on their plate. But I you know what? I've survived this long without going on it, and I'm going to just do that for my remaining years in the business. I do go on social media to follow the Adam Schefters, the Shams, the Woj, of course, who's now left. But there's so many great writers in the NFL and in the NBA, and I follow them because they become like a newsreel for me. They keep you up to date on what's going on. So I've got somebody just passed me on the best 32 writers in the NFL and their Twitter account. So I follow all of them, and that's how I get a lot of my information as a part of the mosaic of ways you prepare for these games. But they certainly help. They're there for every practice. They're in the locker room. They're traveling to the game. They see it in person all the time. There's no better people to rely on sometimes. But so that's what I use it for. But never to go and look at what people are saying about me, what they think about me. I'm too scared. Number one. And number two, I don't know if it would do me any good. Number two, so I stay out of it.
It's fascinating because in a lot of ways I'm like kind of jealous of you as somebody that is knee deep in it seemingly at all times. So this weekend you fly to Seattle on Saturday. Where is home for you? Kansas City?
Well, right now we have a cottage up on Lake Michigan, so I'm north of Green Bay by about an hour and a half drive.
Oh wow!
And we're in an area up in Wisconsin that juts out into Lake Michigan, and then I'll go into Seattle, and then do that game. Then after the game, get back out to the airport and fly to O'Hare, spend the night in Chicago, and then we go into Cincinnati on Monday morning. Red Eyes. I've done my tour of Red Eyes. Unless I can avoid them, I just do not want to. You're never your best on a red eye, so I try to stay away from those. I could have, but I'm not doing it.
I'm sleeping no matter. It's still at the gate. I'm sleeping, Kevin, and
it drives
I don't
me
wake
nuts.
up until it land, and I'm normally well rested.
Well, good for you. You can, I can't sleep, man. My mind, I can't shut my mind off. So I gotta. I admire you because I wish I could do that. I can't, unfortunately. I wish I could be.
Oh yeah,
I can't do it either. Kevin, we're big fans of your work.
Yeah,
always
definitely.
enjoy. Oh, well, how much crazier does your schedule get in like a month or 6 weeks once the NBA is part of it?
Yeah, that's number one. It's the last season of the NBA on TNT where I've been for. This will be my 29th year at TNT,
and it's just an awesome product.
Yeah.
Well, and it's thank you, and I share that with all the men and women I work with there, and have been there for many, many, many years. And it's going to be a very sad season for all of us. But pretty soon we start our Tuesday games, so that'll mean Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. That's a pretty tough stretch for anybody, even a man who might be 30 years younger than me, to prepare for. But I've done it now for the last 4 or 5 years, and it looks like this will be the final year that I have to do 3 in a row, and it'll be bittersweet to do that. But we have another year of the NBA on TNT, and looking forward to finishing strong. Certainly finishing strong.